Is this ready for live stream? Well, good morning. Good morning. It's a pretty exciting day to be here and talk about the victim notification system that we've developed here in Alabama. My name is Darlene Hutchinson Beal. I'm a commissioner for the Crime Victims Compensation Commission, which is a very unique state agency that assists victims in many different ways, and playing a role in the victim notification system is just one of them. And actually you'll be hearing more about a variety of state agencies have contributed to this effort, and we're really excited about that. The victim notification system was actually established in state law in 2011, and it's been an ongoing effort since then, and it will go on still after today. The law is very specific about the efforts of the implementation task force and the work that that task force does, and even charges us with the responsibility of now shifting into public education and outreach endeavors that and that's a big part of why we're actually here today, and we appreciate every one of you that has joined us, and anybody who's watching by live stream or the archived video of this event today, because all of that's in an effort to spread the word. We want the public to know about this project, and for victims and interested parties to sign up in the victim notification system. And we'll be talking a little bit more and showing you what that system is all about and what it does. But I do want to give a lot of credit to the state partners that we've had, a lot of victim advocates that have played a role in this effort since, like I said, this started. Actually, to go back and do just a quick recap of history, in the 1980s, many of you know, is when crime victims' rights and services were really getting more attention, and in the state of Alabama also in the 1980s. And even to 1994 and 95, when the Victims' Rights Amendment was passed into state law and was ratified also in 95, giving a long list of victims' rights in the Bill of Rights. And notification was always a key element, that victims can't participate in the court system if they don't have notice and don't know what's going on. So that's an important element. And then in 2011, the legislature passed a law that actually established the task force and outlined what notification would look like in Alabama. And in 2015, another significant element happened when prison reform was being discussed in Alabama, and the legislature collectively agreed that victim notification was another key element to making sure that if inmates were being released, that victims at least needed to have that notification. But when I speak of partners and those that have contributed to this, and you'll see on the screen, actually, if you guys will advance to the page that has the state partners and task force listed, the law is very specific about who plays a role. We can add anybody along the way if we want to, but there's I think it's 6 agencies. The DA's Association and prosecutors play a role in this, and then there are 4 victim advocates that are appointed by the Attorney General. And speaking of the Attorney General, we're tickled to have Steve Marshall with us today. He has been an advocate and strong supporter of victim notification for a very long time, even back to his days when he was a district attorney. He and I were, I know we talked about it even back then, and we've been working on this project for a very long time. And so when he became Attorney General, we knew that his support would continue. And so the Attorney General of the state does appoint 4 victim advocates to the task force. And so while a lot of the conversations about technical issues, quite often we're always reminding ourselves who we're here to serve, and that crime victims are at the essence, the heart of what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'm going to turn things over to the Attorney General to let him say a few things about this system and where we go from here, and just his role along the way. And thank you very much for my very, very personally, Steve, thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. Good morning. This is a good day, and I want to first acknowledge the hard work of those on the Victim Notification System Task Force. Darlene said this has been a project, and I think one of the things that we've learned very specifically is the ability of Alabama to be able to share data effectively across multiple agencies, but as a result of the diligent effort for those who care desperately about victims in our state, today is the acknowledgement that this system is operational and ready to go. Very grateful for the technical leadership of ALEA and being able to make this happen, the cooperative efforts of DOC as well as Pardon and Parole to understand how its data impacts victims and how we can make sure that notification occurs correctly. And very excited about the collaboration that we saw among multiple agencies to do the thing that this is designed to do, is to make sure that victims have notice when an individual is moved within DOC, when they become eligible for parole, and also when they are released. And in some respects, unless you work directly with victims, you don't completely understand the importance. And I can tell you from the last 2 weeks where I have been at the Board of Pardon and Paroles with victims for different reasons, one of which was 2 individuals that were abducted, they were raped, and their offender was held accountable. And they were there to protest the parole, but yet they knew that an end of release was coming. And as you sit there with those victims, hopefully you understand that once the crime is over, once the prosecution is over, for the victim, that doesn't cause everything to go away. They endure that same trauma when they know that things are going to happen with their offender. And as I sat with those 2 victims that day, I saw the immense stress that they faced not knowing whether or not their offender was going to be released. The one thing that was good from that hearing, though, was not only that parole was denied, but also for the fact that knowing that there was a mandatory release of these individuals, that those victims both understood that there was a system that would give them notice and they would have the opportunity to be emotionally prepared for what was going on. And the fact that the Alabama legislature had the foresight to implement this project, I think is a credit to them, but also it is what the state of Alabama owes victims across this state. Notice and knowledge of what's going on, not only during the time of the trial and the prosecution, but also post-conviction, so they can prepare for what may take place in the release of these individuals back in the community. So very pleased with the work of this group, knowing that we continue to try to refine the system as we go forward. But what I'm excited about is victims are going to have almost instantaneous notice when they're statutorily required to be able to get it. And those who have a direct interest in the case are going to have knowledge of what is going on with their offender. So Darlene, thank you again for the opportunity to be here today. And thanks again to all the group that made today possible.
Thank you so much, General Marshall. And I have to give some credit, and I'm going to forget some people if I start naming them, but Sarah, who runs the victims unit at the Attorney General's office and who's with us, has been the chair of our task force and keeping us all on the straight and narrow and keeping us lined up. There are so many, as you can see, state agencies that have been involved, and I can't say enough to our friends at ALEA and Pardons and Parole and DOC, everybody who's the task of making the data work and talk to each other. I'm not a data person, but as General Marshall was referring to, there's been many challenges along the way, but we've really accomplished a great deal, and I think victims are going to hopefully benefit from this. Director Ward was not able to be with us today from the Bureau of Pardons and Parole, and they've, of course, played a very significant role. And I know Ashley is here from the Board of Pardon and Parole, and probably some other folks. And they've, and Ashley, if you'd like to say anything, I'd love for you to. But we do have a video from Director Ward, which I think is really significant because he was actually the sponsor of the legislation in 2011 when he was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And so he has played a very significant role over the past few years. And I believe that's probably, is that next, I think, if you guys would hit that. There we go.
Hi, I'm Cam Moore, Director of the Alabama Bureau of Pardon and Parole. The Alabama Victims Notification System is an unprecedented collaboration between multiple state agencies that's long overdue. Through this system, we have an easy application to allow those who've been victims of crime or someone who's related to those who are victims of crime access to the most important information they can have in the criminal justice system. It's been a long time coming. This has been worked on for several years, and I'm proud to see the collaboration between multiple state agencies in accomplishing this goal. For too long, too many victims have been forgotten about in the criminal justice system. This is an opportunity to make sure their voices are heard and their opportunity to be heard at individual hearings. This application goes hand in hand with what Governor Ivey's pushed forward, and that is a reduction in government regulations, streamlining services that people should have, and also making sure agencies aren't stuck in silo working and instead working together in collaboration. I've been a supporter of this concept for a long time. I think it's something that's truly beneficial to our criminal justice system. I think it's something we can all be proud of. Most importantly, I think it gives the victims a sense that they also have a role in this process. They have a role and a say as they should. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm excited to see this system roll out.
And we appreciate the role that he has played over the years in getting the system to where it is. And as he mentioned, Governor Ivey has taken great interest in this program too, and unfortunately he's not here today. But even in her budget that she rolled out and presented to the legislature last month, she included a section about the victim notification system. And I've got a press release that we can send electronically to any of the media, and I have some copies here we can give you today that includes a quote from her. But she mentions that victims' rights should and will always be a priority of the state of Alabama. The victim notification system will be an important tool so victims can receive proper and efficient notification on the status of the criminal who committed a crime against them. Public safety is of utmost importance to the Ivey administration, and we truly are appreciative of her assistance, especially the executive level, helping get this over the finish line, or get us to this stage, because I think that's important to recognize here is that the victim notification system has been in place for many, many years. This is just really a new website and a new tool that victims can use and log on to. And actually, this might be the ideal time. We have a short segment that kind of gives an overview of it, and y'all may need to like pause it through a couple times. If you'll pause there, there's the victim simply just goes. Any user, actually, this is open to interested parties, because we have found over the years that there's often many people who have a voice and want to be notified of an inmate's status. So you would simply log on here. There's a place, if you're a new user, you would create your account, or if you're returning and logging in, and if you guys will move from there. And then you fill in your name, your password if you're a returning user, and you hit the login button. And then there you would create your account. If it's your first time being there, you'll see across the bottom notification type. You can request notification by email, by text message, or U.S. mail. And there is a certified mail option for certain victims that are either named in the indictment, next of kin, and there's a criteria there that we would verify who someone is. But otherwise, if you're getting email, text message, that's available to nearly anyone. So you would set up your password, and then it would move you to the next screen. And you would start selecting what offenders you want information about. There's an offender search that's very easy to use. I actually logged on and did this in 7 minutes from start to finish. And so you would put in whatever information you know. You don't have to have everything for every box. You would do search, and then it would give you anybody that meets that criteria. You would select the one that you're actually looking for by hitting the button to the left, and then the next screen takes you to, you would see if that is indeed the individual that you're looking for, and you would click the receive notice. After you would select what your relationship is, if you're victim or next of kin, and then this is where notifications would show up on anything you're being notified of related to that inmate. And it might be a parole hearing coming up, it might be a change in status. And then I think the next screen shows you that's the message that you would, because then you would get a text message or an email, and it would tell you to go to it would give you a link to go to this website, and it would list your notifications. And we even, one thing that's really new about this system from how it existed 15 years ago or 20 years ago is once upon a time, the parole board looked for everybody. And it was sometimes a decade or two after a crime occurred. And that's the efficiency of this system, is that a victim can register themselves and put their information in ahead of time. They can do that shortly after sentencing even. But there are some victims who may not want to be notified, who may not want any contact with the criminal justice system after they've participated and done their part. So we have offered that option for those that may want to opt out and not receive notice. And then there would be a verification system involved there. And then that may be the last screen, or is there one more after that? Oh, and we do have a wonderful list of frequently asked questions and additional information, some resources for victims, and that's one of the tabs at the top of the page also. So it's a very easy, simple system to use, and I really wanted today for you to hear from some people who've actually used the system, who will benefit from it firsthand. It's a passion for me. I was the victim of a crime. I was kidnapped when I was 20 years old, abducted at gunpoint from a post office by someone I had never seen before. And I participated in having him prosecuted. He went to prison for 20 years. And so when I first got that parole notice, or as I moved over the years, studies show that people will move 11 to at least 11 times on average in their lifetime. And updating your information, back in the 90s, I would call the parole board and hope that whoever was writing down my information was putting it in the way I was giving it to them. And they always did, and I was thankful for that. But it would have been nice to have that control, or at least know and see the information being added. You could do it any time of the day or night with this new system, and decide how you want to get noticed, because you may not want that certified mail that's complicated to go pick up. You may just want an email or U.S. mail. So it was very special and important to me for the parole notification process. And so as we've developed this new system, I found many other victim advocates that I've worked with over the years. And Wanda, if you, there's Wanda. Wanda is the executive director now of VOCAL, Victims of Crime and Leniency. She's been a crime victims advocate for many, many years. And she has been touched by the parole system also. And I think she could add a lot of perspective to what this actually will do for victims in the future.
Thank you, Darlene. Good morning. As Darlene said, my name is Wanda Miller. I'm the executive director of VOCAL, that's Victims of Crime and Leniency. I've been on the task force for many years, working alongside all of these agencies to try to bring this to where we are today. There's been a lot of work put into it, been a lot of effort, but at the bottom line of what all of us were doing, from the legislature, from Cam Ward first putting this out for us to now, is that we wanted something that was going to benefit crime victims, that was going to give them that sense of security, that, and also the ability to control, and that's a big thing for victims. When you're put in the system, and I was a victim, much like Darlene, and this is how we met many years ago. I was kidnapped from a restaurant in Birmingham, and so I was going into the system. Had three defendants that went into DOC, went to many parole hearings over the years. And there was always that certified letter that came to the mailbox. It was always something that you anticipated. It was something that put you right back to that day. You know, it's all of the strides that you had made to move past that crime. The day you got that certified mail, you were right back in that spot again. So what this system means to me and to so many victims that I've dealt with over the years, I've worked in law enforcement and victim assistance, worked in a district attorney's office, and now work for a nonprofit. What we hear from victims every day is that the system is so hard. There's so many places along the way that victims don't know. They don't have information. They don't know what they can do. They don't know what the next step is. And this system is going to make that easier. I talked to a victim the other day that I dealt with in Jefferson County. Her brother was murdered. And every step they still call me and say, what does this mean? What do we need to do? And they found out about the notification system and said, is this something we need to do? And once I explained it to them, they were like, that's awesome. I walked them through signing up. The father of the victim is elderly, so other family members can now go on this system and sign up. It won't be just one person getting a notification. Interested parties can sign up. So to that family, it meant the world, that they could also go on this system whenever they wanted to. I talk to victims all the time that go on DOC weekly to see where those inmates are. To look at that screen and see the status of that person. So, crime victims deal with a lot. It's not just the crime, it's not just the trial, it's not just the sentencing, but this goes on for the rest of their lives. So, we're looking at people who are dealing with these situations years, decades later. So what this system is going to do, from my perspective as a victim and as an advocate for other victims, is going to give them that control. It's going to give them a place to go that was built for them, to help them, and to make, if we make their life better just in this very small way, we will have done our job. Thank you very much. Thank you, darling.
And as Wanda referenced, the system did go live at the beginning of the month on March 4th. And so we more or less did a soft rollout, and people who were enrolled in the previous system, they received an email or text message from us, in some cases both, and were directed to the new site and were asked to sign up. And you can't see it on here because this is actually a screenshot of it, but when you're on the actual website, which of course appears at the bottom, there's the phone number for the Attorney General's Office of Victims Assistance, and I know they've received quite a few calls, and I'm so appreciative of them and their efforts and working with victims. And the Parole Board has received a lot of calls, people just wanting to know if this is really for oh, that's a great screen. If you'll leave it there, that's good. These are the notices that victims can get information about. Of course, the pardon and parole hearings, which are very familiar with the victims, but also medical release and the mandatory supervised release, which many of us have heard about over the last couple of years. And when some of these things were added during prison reform, that's why we were so adamant about that these needed to also be notices that victims received. And so participation in release, furlough, and leave, and even at the end of sentence or death of the inmate, that the victims would receive notice about that. And as Wanda was talking about, it really has the opportunity to lower the anxiety of some victims and give them a little bit more peace of mind, possibly, hopefully, whatever we can offer them, because they know that they're logged in, they know that they're covered. There are many cases, some of us victim advocates are also receiving notice for victims that we've stood in the gap for, and work with those families and make sure that it's a safety net, that we're always taking care of those cases and offering the information we can. And so it did go live a couple of weeks ago. We have at least 2,000, or close to 2,000 that are currently signed up. And so our big effort today and going forward is to spread the word more, so more victims will sign up. And actually, another dear friend of ours, Donna, I hope will come and say a few words. I know that they've recently been through a parole hearing for one of the inmates, and she and her family have already utilized the new system and signed up. And if you'll just share how easy that was, or if it was difficult.
It's very easy. I'm Donna Holman Bush. My brother was murdered in 2003 in Elmore County. This system is going to be good for family members, for people in the community, anyone that might want to know where these guys that murdered my brother, where they might be, and where they might be located. When it comes time for parole hearings, yes, it's a time of anxiety as soon as we get the notice that we start getting, very anxious about. So we're excited to see this. It was very easy to do, and we just appreciate everyone that worked so hard on this. Thank you.
And this microphone is also working for the live stream, so they told me to make sure it's Maybe we should leave it off. Okay. Um, so just to recap some of the peace of mind. As I mentioned, I'm not the technical person. Thankfully, we had many technical folks that did help us in the system in creating it. Anyway, we do have press releases that we can share. We'll gladly share with the media, and that will be posted. And crime victims compensation, I want to also note, I believe is live streaming this, so others can use it, or we can help spread the word that way. But anything you guys can do to help us get the word out through your agencies and organizations and the news media, we're very grateful for. And the legislature will be reminding them that we have this system up and running. And like I said, this work doesn't stop here. This task force goes on, and we can explain to any of you that are curious about how that law is written and what the role of the task force will remain. And we'll continue to do our work and expand on the notification system the best we can that serves victims in a variety of ways. But if anybody has questions, some of the smart people behind me I'm sure can answer them. Yes?
Will victims be able to look at the sex offender registry and to see if a person has moved through the system, or do they need to go back to the ALEA maintained registry?
They're not connected at this point. In the future, that could be a consideration, but right now they're not connected. This is primarily for anyone who, and one point we do make in the press release too, that it's post-conviction, so any inmate, victims sometimes are concerned about pre-trial releases. So in that case, you would probably still want to talk to or check the websites of the sheriff in the county where the crime occurred. But this is for post-conviction, and even after release, you could still, if a pardon was a possibility. But as far as sex offender goes, it's not connected to that at this time. Yes, Ralph?
I know that the early release happened back last year. One of the issues was victim notification. How does the system, is there an upgrade to the system such that it would fix that, or how does this work?
That's directly related. When that law was written, it intended that this system would help do that notification. The system was not at a point where this is intended to be an automated system too, for especially the electronic notices. And in that case, which has been about a year ago, DOC was very diligent after, realizing some of the issues that were going on to go into even the old system and utilizing some of the information they have. But had this been in place and at the point we are now, I don't think this is just me speaking, we probably wouldn't have run into some of those issues. Because when that law was written and then the retroactive aspect was added, it anticipated this system being in place. I don't know if the Attorney General.
Well, it's a great question, because it would, if this system had been in place, eliminated the need for the litigation that we had shortly after the retroactivity provision took place. Victims historically had known when parole was taking place. End of sentence was a different story. And so this fills a gap that we didn't have previously, plus with the mandatory early release provisions that are in play, gives victims additional notice that they wouldn't have had previously. Okay.
Oh.
You want me to use this? Okay.
But as you'll see, the previous slide did mention mandatory release, and I had when the original law was proposed in 2015 with prison reform and originally did mandatory release, we anticipated this system being in place, and then retroactive was added a few years later, and so we anticipate that this being live and active now is going to alleviate some of the issues we've had. Kim, did you have something?
Will this replace the notifications that were already being done, say through paroles, or is it to kind of augment the system? And if you are a victim and you've been happy with the notification that you should get, is it still imperative that you sign up?
I would say it's imperative that you sign up. It will augment what Pardon and Parole has been doing, and I have to really tip my hat to Pardon and Parole. They've been doing sort of double duty for a couple of years while this newest version was in development, and being very diligent, going through files, looking for victims, and making sure that, and entering information as they came across. And Ashley, I don't know if you want to elaborate on or add anything to that, but I would think it would augment it.
Yes, it will, for sure.
And Kim, let me add, this is not to make things more difficult for victims. It clearly is intended to make it better, and to the extent that somebody loves getting a piece of mail, and wants to have something tangibly in their hand that shows the date, that still exists as an opportunity. But the one thing it does give us is greater certainty of notice and the ability for victims to receive it faster, so I think it's a win-win.
One of the biggest attributes too, and Donna alluded to this, it was her brother that was murdered, but she wasn't technically next of kin. He was married, and her mother and Donna and her sibling, her brothers previously, all had interest in that case. And all of us know situations where we may be interested in a case, maybe it's a relative, a next door neighbor, a best friend that you might want to sign up and get notice for. So that will be your option now. And going forward from here, as it shows that you can sign up. I've done it from my cell phone. You can do it from a tablet, your computer. Obviously, it takes just a few minutes. It's very, very easy. And so we are encouraging people, and you can encourage friends and family members. There will be an annual reminder sent to individuals by email or by phone, a text message reminding them to keep their information up to date. So that's going to be a really great attribute too. And then throughout the website, we have the phone number and email addresses for the Attorney General's Office of Victims Assistance, who's just done great work helping answer questions and facilitate. So, any other questions? Well, we appreciate everybody's interest and help us spread the word on this. Did I overlook it? I asked. We have Matt here today too, and I'm very thrilled to have their participation. We want all the voices at the table helping us go forward from here. So, thank you.